Did y'all want a video or not? I know I'm on the road. I know that I'm literally by a road that's really loud. I'm sorry guys, you're just gonna have to deal with it. But let's get into the main subject of this video, which is something that everybody has been dreaded. Not only are we stealing the graphics cards away from gamers, but now it's time to look into whether or not we can steal the consoles away from gamers. Because just look at your gaming console, just sitting there. It's being stupid. It's not paying for itself. Your PC, ASIC miner, and cloud contracts are all working hard to gather you some coin. The consoles are just sitting there letting you play silly games every now and then. That's pathetic. But why are they getting a free pass? Why are people shouting at me? Consoles are still computers much like any other, and as such should surely be in the mines earning their dues. So why aren't they? Why aren't we taking PS4s and Xboxes out of the hands of the gamers? Why isn't anyone really putting these things to work? And if they did, would it even be worth it? Well, that's what we will be looking into in this video. Now, mining in and of itself isn't a particularly hard thing to do. Sure, you'll need some pretty beefy hardware to really make it worthwhile, but you could technically mine on practically anything if you tried hard enough. Well, not anything. It's not like you can program your dog to pump out some sick hash power for you. Or could you? No, you can't. If that dog was equipped with a decent CPU, chances are you could mine with that dog. Not that you should mine with dogs even if you wanted to. That'd be wrong. The PETA should not see this video. The returns just wouldn't be worth it, and animal cruelty. Anyways, yes, you can mine on all sorts of things other than high-end mining equipment and expensive graphics cards, including phones, tablets, MacBooks, and even pencil and paper. And no, we are not kidding about that last one. Apparently, someone actually churned out a whopping 0.67 hash per day mining Bitcoin by hand. So yes, you can mine on certain consoles. If you can do it with your hand, you can do it with a computer. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. So with all of that in mind, it seems only natural that the same can be done on consoles, and well, it can. One of the inspirations behind this video was Folding at Home, a research initiative that allows you to lend your computer's processing power to science in order to help simulate protein folding, which is like mining, kind of. It's distributed computing across a whole range of a whole range of hardware. This helps researchers better understand certain diseases, which aids in the development of better treatments. What makes this initiative especially cool is that over a decade ago, the researchers teamed up with Sony to develop a program that lets PlayStation 3s join in on the folding action. And it actually worked out really well, with PS3s having since contributed a ton of processing power to the network. But getting Sony's help to get PS3s to do scientific work and getting these things mining cryptocurrencies are slightly two different things. Nevertheless, because certain versions of the PS3 allowed users to modify it and install the Linux operating system, it was possible to actually mine. One user on Bitcoin Talk developed code that was able to put PS3s to work, managing a hash rate of around 22 mega hashes per second, mining Bitcoin, not Ethereum. So there are some complicated steps involved into getting it to work, and that hash rate was low even for back in 2011 when it was originally done. But the point is that it does work, and if it can be done on one console, it can be done on others too. One of the most extreme examples of another console that can be used to mine is, surprisingly enough, the 1985 NES. So that's right, in order to win a bet, one guy actually developed a system that lets a 33-year-old console mine Bitcoin. It requires the use of a Raspberry Pi, among other things, but again, it did work. Heck, there's even someone claiming to have gotten his PSP to mine some coin, though this one seems the least likely of all the examples we looked at. It's also theoretically possible to mine on a Wii, but we couldn't really find any evidence that it actually works. But it's not just the Japanese consoles that have received the mining treatment. Microsoft's Xbox 360 could also be hacked and modded to run a form of Linux and could be used to mine, and that seems to be exactly what one Xbox 360 owner did. It's yet another fairly complicated process that boasts basically zero returns, but it's cool to know that it is possible. But enough with all the old consoles. They're not powerful enough to make a profit anyway, so what about newer consoles like the PS4 and Xbox One? Well, because these particular consoles have more than a few additional security measures and restrictions in place to stop people from loading up their own choice operating system on these things, getting these things to mine takes something other than ingenuity. It takes an internet browser. That's right, browser mining. Because browser mining can be done on a large number of devices as long as they have a built-in browser, you'd assume that it'd work on something like the PS4 and Xbox One, and at least in the case of the latter, that assumption could be very much right on the money. Very, very little money though. A YouTuber called eCash Society Tech Talks claims to have gotten his Xbox One mining using a website called CoinPot, but sadly, even though it seems to work, a hash rate of less than 15 hashes per second mining Bitcoin Cash means it's barely even close to worth it. Like, you should honestly just light it on fire and like throw it in the dumpster. That's how much it's actually worth it. Various other people have tried the browser mining method on the PS4, but it either crashed the system or just wouldn't mine at all. And that's one of the major things, really. Even though consoles are essentially gaming PCs, low to high end, depending on which one you get, PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, Xbox One S, the regular PlayStation 4, the architectures and components aren't built for the same type of workloads, even though they're built for the same instruction set like x86. Even in the cases where they do use off-the-shelf equivalent parts like GPUs on graphics cards or similar CPUs as you find in your old gaming system, they're heavily modified in a way that makes them relatively poor performers for tasks other than gaming or other than things that they're specifically optimized for. Why can't you mine on all consoles, and why you shouldn't even if you could? Okay, so as expected, mining on select consoles is certainly possible even though their hardware isn't suited for it, but why can't you mine on all of them? Well, the short answer is effort. Getting any of the consoles we looked at to mine undoubtedly took a lot of time and effort to do. That time and effort, if spent doing it as a fun experiment or as a hobby, is fine. But if that time and effort writing a code, figuring out hacks, getting around security protocols, and loading up specialized operating systems was actually done in order to profit from one of these things, no one would do it. The fact of the matter is that even though it can be done relatively successfully as like practically working, it's basically never worth doing it if you're looking at making any significant amount of money off of mining on any console, and basically you're just burning your electricity away. There's no doubt in our minds that if mining on the PS4 Pro or the Xbox One X produced significant enough hash rates to mine on it profitably, we'd already have seen news articles talking about it being out of stock everywhere and going for more than double what it's worth, just like we saw with graphics cards over the last few months. Without a good enough incentive like that provided by mining a lot more coin, very few people would choose to spend a butt ton of time properly hacking, modding, and optimizing consoles to mine. But beyond that, if you're okay with the time investment to get your console mining and you really don't care all that much about how much coin it's actually bringing in, there's another reason you might want to steer clear from it, and it's cooling. We love gaming consoles and they've made huge strides technology-wise over the past few years, but man, do those things run hot. Between everyone in the UFD tech team, we've had more than a few consoles that just up and died on us due to overheating, and even though we did manage to bring at least one back to life using the ridiculously stupid but surprisingly effective oven method, they died again not too long after, because that's not actually an effective way of bringing anything. You're not doing anything. Like, you're just basically maybe moving something to the... Anyway, it's a stupid idea. Don't bake your computer components in the oven. You're gonna ruin your oven, you're gonna ruin your computer. If it's already dead, what do you have to lose besides a dead oven? Anyways, so heat is a major killer in most electronic components, but it's even more so in consoles, and heat is basically all you'll be getting out of mining on consoles right now. But anyway, ending this thing off, while we think the idea of mining on consoles is a really neat one, and we're always impressed with the ingenuity that goes into making these things do stuff they're not supposed to, it's just not worth it. And I know, I'm already gonna have 1,000 comments being like, leave our consoles alone. Why would you even think of such a thing, you sick dirtbag? And the truth is, it's just because it's interesting. An Xbox One X that has the same performance as an RX 580, maybe just a little bit above, the fact that it can't mine like an RX 580 is something that's super interesting to me. Why can't we get it to work? Oh, because they locked down the firmware. If we took that hardware and we threw it on a PC, then absolutely it might actually be worth it. But then we run into issues like the memory timing. There's a whole bunch of complications with mining on consoles that's just not there with PCs. It's an interesting setup. Like, why can't we mine with the Tegra chip on a Switch? Why not? Why not? That'd be interesting. But the whole point behind all of this is that you don't need to worry about your consoles going out of stock for mining. It's basically never going to happen. To get Linux running on a PlayStation 4 is not nearly impossible, but it's super difficult. You have to make sure you're on the right firmware. You can't upgrade the firmware, and then even getting it over there and then trying to make sure that it actually runs Linux and then trying to get a miner to run on that Linux. It's just a nightmare. It's not something that anybody is going to spend their time doing when you can just buy a graphics card and slap it into a system. And then let's not forget the cost behind consoles. Like, you're paying, what, $300 to $500 a pop for these things? You can get an RX 580 8GB for around $400, which is about the same price that is what the hashing equivalent you're going to get out of the console. It's just not going to be a reasonable thing to do, because when you have to buy the entire system, you're not getting your value worth out of it. Anyways, that's my point. That's this thought behind console mining. It's just something that I thought was interesting, something that I wanted to discuss with you. Like, did you know that you could mine on a 1985 NES? Did you know you can mine by pencil and paper? That's something that's super interesting that I don't think most people are considering, because they're just raging against the lack of graphics cards that they have. There's so much more to cryptocurrency mining that I just think is an interesting look at humanity and the perspective of life that we're living. That's going to be it for me today. Be sure to smash the like button if you're relieved to know that your consoles aren't going anywhere. Get subscribed to stay up to date on all of our tech-related content. I don't know how many more videos I'm going to be doing by the roadside, but thank you guys so much for sticking with me while I've been traveling throughout the U.S. It's coming to a close very shortly. I really appreciate everybody's support. And if you want to buy a console, or if you want to buy a graphics card, you can use that Amazon affiliate code that's down in the video description. It'll help us out a lot. It keeps things going. It keeps the wheels turning. It keeps videos coming out. Anyways, I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.